Welcome guys, welcome to Talking About Sports here with Rahman. So yeah, we're now looking into the finals campaign. Really exciting, really cannot wait till Saturday with the Warriors taking on the Panthers. 6th place versus 7th, and the Panthers, will be looking to top of the Warriors at Go Media Stadium, formerly known as Mount Smart Stadium. So we go into the game on Saturday night, same time as roughly the All Blacks that kick off the first half about an hour after the Warriors game. And fortunately for Ricky Stuart and the Canberra Raiders, that they were able to push their game out to the Sunday to give them a little bit of rest after they got demolished by the Dolphins in their final hit out in round 27. Yeah, so a lot of talking points from the, round 27 fixtures. The Eels, had a fantastic win over the Newcastle Knights in their last game. Knights have just been unfortunately crap all season. And, I won't be taking it lightly. Their coach has just been absolutely utter garbage in the last, 3-4 seasons. Yes, the Knights have made the top 4 a few times here and there in the last couple of seasons. But, to go from, top 8, to go from the top 8 for a couple of seasons and then, straight to the bottom as a wooden spooner, you'd be scratching your head being like, what's happened? I know injuries happen to the better of all the teams, but, look at the Warriors. They're in the top 8 and they had injuries all season. They also had same players getting the same niggly injuries like Rocco Berry, good for one game and then crap for the next game, then out for 4 weeks. So the Warriors managed to get the 6th spot on the back of results, going their way early in the season. But when it came to crunch time, that last month, really the Warriors should have, sealed 4th place with an extra life. And that Titans loss really was a big loss at home about 6 weeks ago. Yeah, so in other news, basically the Melbourne Storm are in dire shreds. They're, facing the Bulldogs this coming Friday night, and that's going to be a massive game. That's going to be exciting. Ryan Papenhuyzen unfortunately is out. Jerome Hughes is not playing. You've also got some other big name stars that aren't playing for the Storm. And look, the Bulldogs will be strengthening their full strength team against this Melbourne Storm this week. And, if the Warriors, pull off an unlikely upset, and I say unlikely, when we want the Warriors to win, what happens there? And then when they're, not favoured to win, they pull a rabbit out of the hat. So fingers crossed that they can do that on Saturday night against the full string Panthers team. But, it's going to be a really hard ask and a really tough game following on from that if they do manage to overcome the Penrith Panthers on Saturday, either facing the Melbourne Storm or the Bulldogs the following week, either in Melbourne or Sydney. So their finals campaign really, really kicks off this Saturday night, and then they go over to Aussie and pray for a miracle that each week they can just take a team by team. Got the Raiders versus Broncos the Sunday. That's going to be an exciting game. Broncos have been finding their form for the last 4 to 6 weeks, and they look like a side that could just do it, could just go all the way. A tough first game against the Raiders, and personally, the Raiders did not look at the odds against the Dolphins, although they didn't field their full strength team and rested majority of players to give them, some rest for the Broncos. But, I'll say it now, the Raiders beat the Broncos. They're, only one game away from their first grand final in a very, very, very long time. And, I do have a soft spot for Ricky Stuart. Out of all the coaches in the NRL, he is a sideline coach and gets the best out of his players and just loves that perspective. I think that's fantastic insight from a coach being able to do that. We talked about the Storm and the Bulldogs. Bellyache, will not want to be losing 3 straight games. And I'm picking the Storm there. I think, with finals experience already, and Bellyach's and Craig Bellamy's mind, as well as the players that have been there before, it'd be really hard not to pick Melbourne Storm against the Bulldogs, and then the Warriors face the Dogs the following week if they do manage to get up on Penrith. Yes, you got the Panthers 6th and 7th. The other game is the Sharks and Roosters. I mean, Nico Hines just got cleared for a potential suspension on a hip drop tackle, during that game between the Sharks and the Bulldogs. Man, they put a fantastic performance on the Bulldogs, and very desperate win to get their 5th spot and not get the 6th. Although results were in their favour due to the Warriors' loss against the Eels the following week, and then their loss by 1 point against Manly. Geez, nothing went the Warriors' way over the weekend. Good news, All Blacks did beat South Africa, so that was a good match there. But you're coming back to the league, the Sharks-Roosters game. I think both sides there, I would stake it, picking the Roosters based on the form, based at where they are, 7th spot. I feel the Roosters could actually get up against the Sharks on this game coming this week, and the Sharks could be the first team eliminated in the 5th spot. So, yeah, even though it's a home game there, I just think, the Roosters are the dark horse at the moment, as well as the Broncos. And the Penrith Panthers the Roosters were 8th spot, not 7th. The Panthers were 7th. So the Panthers coming from the 7th spot to, claim history, 5 championships in 25 years. And for a side that was at the bottom of the table in week 8 as well as week 12, 4 weeks apart. And then they had that 9-game stretch where they just dominated. That's class. That shows, through adversity, a side has a culture of just excellence and success. And, if they top the Warriors, at some point, this could be, their hunt for that 5th peat, facing into the Storm or the Dogs the following week. And, have a pretty good record against Melbourne Storm and both the Bulldogs this season. Unfortunately, they did lose that game in round 26 against the Bulldogs, although they rested 16 players. So I think, if the Panthers were to get up and the Storm were to beat the Dogs, I would see that the Panthers would, come to work against the Bulldogs there. So really excited for this week 1 campaign's final, and we'll see what happens. Too good. Bye.